Hello, my name is Melania Trump, and I'm married to the president. Okay, so Canada. Is it anything like America? Next door, but is it anything like it?
It's kind of strange, man. We're not divided politically as much as America is, but yeah, we're pretty much the same as America. Different kind of money system, whatever. People are nicer up in Canada, though.
Do you think Bitcoin's going to take over, and it will become like just universal currency as opposed to like pound, dollar, euro, whatever?
Yeah, well, I think blockchain technology, it's something that's huge, and I think it's something that people are kind of overlooking right now. In about 10 years, it's going to be massive. I remember in 2009 when Bitcoin first started coming out, you're looking at it like people didn't really trust the internet at the time or online currency at all. I mean, now you look at it, there's tens of thousands of different currencies, not just Bitcoin. So we'll have to see which one takes over in the future. But I do believe the online currency is the way to go.
So do you think like cryptocurrency is just going to basically be loads of different banks, and each bank is your friend who you're trying to send money to? So the principle of rather than going to the bank to send, is it just going to be you and me will send it? But then what's the point of all these other cryptos if it's just an easy way to get a quick buck when it goes up, when it goes down? If the purpose behind it is like the code, what's the need for the coin then? Because if it's the code, that doesn't make sense. It's like the business that you're creating rather than the money way to make money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not an expert in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or anything like that, but I think what they say by coin is it is just a code, right? There's not going to be anything physical at all, right? And I believe you got to look at it like if you're going to use an app, excuse me, to pay somebody, it's just going to be bits, coins, or a code, right? You're not going to have anything actual physical. I mean, look at the apps that are coming out these days. You have Cash App, you have email transfers that you can send money and all that stuff, right? And even banks have their own apps where you can actually just send regular currency now. So there's not going to be anything physical about it. I mean, if you think about it, all the money we have right now is fiat money anyway. So, it's pretty much useless in your pocket. All it is a promissory note, right? I promise to pay you this much money. If you're using it just codes and stuff like that going over the internet, who cares? Who cares what it looks like as long as, it still serves the purpose.
So Bitcoin is like the godfather. It's the fiat. It's the fiat. It's like it's the gold equivalent to cash. So if it's not Bitcoin, that's going to be like the predominant thing, and it's simply just the idea of cryptocurrency, like the two codes transferring. Why are people making all these other coins then? They're jumping on the bandwagon, but they don't truly understand why or where it's going.
Listen, it's like the Wild West. Especially with any new technology when it comes out, you want to be the first to market, and then you're going to have all these rip-offs, right? And see which one catches. And if you have, let's say you have 1 million people that jump on one of these other cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin, next that company is flourishing. It's almost like a Walmart. I don't know if you guys have Walmarts out there compared to like Kmart or whatever else, right? Or McDonald's as compared to like A&W, something like that, right? So you're always going to have the top of the food chain guy, which is BitCurrent or BitTorrent, Bitcoin, sorry. And then you're going to have all these other ones below it, maybe not producing as much as Bitcoin, but certainly in the running.
Do you think that Bitcoin is going to fade? So, for example, is Bitcoin the MySpace until Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat came along, and then Ripple will take over because that is equivalent to Swift, which is sending payments within 5 days. Ripple's going to take over the banking system and become the new Switch. Is it Swift or Switch? You know what I'm trying to say, where you now send the money in 2 seconds as opposed to 5 days. Yeah, is Ripple the one that's going to make it, and then anything else is just like pretty much useless?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's the beauty about open market and a free market, right? Is that it doesn't matter who comes up to play in this space if people enjoy the user interface or whatever's going on with it, whatever's different between their technology and somebody else's. As long as people enjoy using it and it's efficient, then people are going to use it, right? And like 7.5 billion people on this planet, not everybody's going to enjoy using the same things, right? So, you just got to kind of not follow the trends, but see where everybody's going with it, see which one works the best, and then go from there.
I look at Bitcoin, right, and it's 5 grand, for example. And in my mind, I say, if I bought this now, what would happen? And obviously now it's £7,000, for example, and it's starting to drop because of all the coronavirus shit. So in my mind, I could have easily made 2 grand. But at what point does an investor not spend fucking 5 grand on essentially one share of a business, because it could drop at any point and you've got to spend so much money just to make a bit of money on each time? Otherwise, what's the point? So at what point does the price become so much that you literally can't take a risk and gamble and spend like 10 grand on a share?
Well, I think that's up to the individual. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's 7,000 euros, right? So what's that?
£7,000, about 10 grand,
So
$10
10
or
grand,
something.
14 grand, something like that, Canadian. You know, I look at some guys here in Calgary, where I'm from, and that's a drop in the bucket from what their investors are, right? And again, you know, Bitcoin, from my understanding, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bitcoin is always being mined, so it's difficult, and it's backed by not being able to produce more Bitcoin, right? I think that is, whereas if you look at money, it was backed by gold to start with, and now it's backed by essentially nothing. Essentially, the government saying, yes, it's what we're going to use for our money. But if the government tomorrow was to say, you know, we're not going to honor any of those notes anymore, I mean, what are people left with? They're left holding their dick. So, I mean, when you look at investing, if you look at Bitcoin, it's actually something, it's backed by essentially nothing, but at the same time, everything. It's one of the strangest things to come about in it ever, I guess.
And that's the thing, like, in order to get Bitcoin, you'd have to sacrifice something, whether it's money, a car, which is equivalent to the value of the coin. If the government, for example, aren't printing notes anymore, so how do you end up paying for the Bitcoin? Like, you'd have to like trade a car, and they give you a cryptocurrency equivalent. So if there's no cash, then how are you supposed to get into the trade? So everything's going to become localized trade.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was getting at, is that if it gets back to like a barter system, we go back to say, you have 2 cows and I have a duck, or however the hell it works, right? Let's trade. Well, that's not enough. The duck isn't enough to carry the 2 cows. So how else can I pay you for this, right? You're going to online currency and just be like, all right, here you go. I think it's something that is going to be the future. I'm not sure if I'm scared of it. I think I'm more apprehensive, I guess. When it comes to new systems like this, nobody really wants to jump on right away. And again, the people that were first onto Bitcoin, they've made millions and millions of dollars. I mean, you hear stories now of guys that have lost hard drives with $30 million worth of Bitcoin on it. And, you know, okay, you can either choose to believe it or choose not to believe it. Then you have to do your research into what is backed by the Bitcoin, or how Bitcoin is backed. And when you start digging into all the blockchaining and all the security features behind it and how it's actually come into fruition, you go, oh, you know, it's a genius system. It's a genius system. And yes, there are going to have to be ways to pay for the Bitcoin, and whether that be the fiat money that we're using now to pay for it, or we find something else in trade, some kind of mineral, silver, gold, whatever it is, diamonds. There's always going to be a way to pay for that Bitcoin, whether it be government backed or material.
I don't think people understand that when you say cryptocurrency, they think of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is like it's like the internet before Google and everything. Like, you can't trade with Bitcoin, because if I'm giving you a car and you give me the Bitcoin, well, the Bitcoin's worth, say, 7 grand. So my car's worth 7 grand. But just like that, my Bitcoin could be worth 5 grand, which means I've given away a car, which is basically 2 grand short. So unless it stays the same, it's always going to fluctuate. So people can't use Bitcoin to pay, because it's like the pound or the Canadian dollar jumping like hundreds of pounds. It has to stay the same. So it can't be Bitcoin. If it's a cryptocurrency system, it has to be like the simple of a code, and then the value is the same. So, for example, Ripple, they've got so many coins out there that it probably will never, ever go any higher than £10, because Bitcoin's only valuable because there's none left, basically. And now everyone's like fighting for what's left. Ripple, there's so much out there that it's never going to go above 10. So £10 XRP will be equivalent to the gold being at least, I don't know how it works, $10 or whatever. And then they'll use the Ripple system, and therefore when they trade, it won't go up as much, and therefore you won't lose as much.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think, and like I say, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a Bitcoin expert, but the way Bitcoin is worked is you're supposed to mine these Bitcoins, And I think right now, I mean, people used to set up warehouses to mine Bitcoins. And I mean, they're mining what, 2 or 3 coins every couple of days. And it takes longer and longer and longer to mine, quote unquote, mine Bitcoins. And I think that's what they're backing it on, is that, these things aren't just going to pop into market. It's not just like, let's say, the US Federal Reserve that is just printing money, right? Bitcoin is backed by people not being able to print the money, which makes it almost a solid currency in the fact that it's going to be worth what it's worth until people catch on. And when it starts getting distributed more and more, yes, the price is going to fluctuate a little bit, but it's almost like the stock market, right? You're going to have, let's take Apple. Shares of Apple have gone up and gone down depending on the technology they bring out and how many people are buying their products and so on and so forth. If you look at Bitcoin as a currency instead of a market, then you're taking out essentially what people rest their laurels on and what people want to see. So it's a different way of thinking about money, as opposed to this money is, this money, we printed this money, this is what it's worth. It's like, this money, talk about the Bitcoin, this money is worth this much because of this, right? When you're looking at other cryptocurrencies, you're looking at them going, okay, they're spread thin, yes, and we know what the value of them is, and that value is probably going to last forever. But if you take a higher risk on one of the other ones, maybe some of the smaller coins, things like that, you're looking at, okay, this could go up and go down. So you're essentially playing the stock market while using your money to do things, while using the same money to do things. It's a really strange way to look at money, and I don't think people are actually ready for it.
I've just realized that I said that Bitcoin won't be used as like the digital transfer of finance, because in my mind, when I said that, I imagined you'd have to spend the whole amount of the Bitcoin, so $7,000 or whatever,
Yeah,
which no one's. And if you were to spend £7,000, as I said, and it drops to 5, you'd lose 2. But I've just realised that you can send, say, 1% of the whole coin, which is equivalent to, say, I don't know, £200, and it will only go up, say, or down $5 or whatever, because it's like only 1% of the whole thing. That could work. I've just realised what I said, which I was wrong. That could work. But do you think the money is going to be in the mining of specifically Bitcoin, or buying money as an investor, but buying Bitcoin as an investor and then cashing out every time it makes $2,000, for example?
See, I don't think people are going to use it as an investment in the future. I think now that's what people are using it for. And good on them, because I didn't think of it. But I mean, in 2008, if you were to buy Bitcoin in 2008, I mean, the first Bitcoins ever used were to buy a pizza, right? If that pizza guy actually kept those Bitcoins, he'd have $300 million. It's a $300 million pizza. So as an investment back in the day, sure, use it for that. As of coming, the uses for it in the future are going to be more monetary. I think it's going to be more like the 10 or 20 bucks you have in your pocket. Buying whatever you want at the corner store and this and that, just walk up and tap, kind of like Apple Pay, and how you have it linked, your bank account linked up to your phone already.
So the value of what the coin is worth is going to be irrelevant. It's more the code and the process, and just the code, basically. Like, it doesn't matter whether you spend 10 grand. Obviously, the more you spend, the more it could fluctuate and you could lose. But the code is ultimately still going to be the same. And it doesn't really matter whether the coin's a million or 50p, because if you're only sending, say, 20 quid for your mate's pizza, it's not going to really go down or up. I mean, it probably move the same as the pound, for example, like a couple of pence.
Exactly. And that's the way I kind of look at it. But I mean, like I said, I could be completely wrong. This is just looking at it from an objective point of view. You could, it's either going to be used very frequently or it's going to be used zero. That's the way I look at it in the future. I think now, like I said, people are using it to invest, and in the future, who knows, right? This blockchain technology is something fierce that, I don't think the world is ready for. I don't think many people understand, including myself. I'm not the greatest in knowing what the hell blockchain is, but that technology is something definitely that is the wave of the future.
So, like, for example, like when the fidget spinners became popular, every shop started to sell them. Cryptocurrency becomes popular, every person makes an IPO, right? Is it going to become a point where, like, for example, big industries of food, McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, Pizza Hut, everyone starts to compete, and then you're left with the big three, for example, KFC, McDonald's, and Pizza Hut, and the rest simply just can't keep up. Are you going to be left with, for example, Bitcoin, Ripple, Ethereum? Like, is it just going to be left with like a few, and they've taken the idea from Bitcoin, which is that system of transferring?
Yeah, I think that's, like I said, I think that's the way the open market and the free market should be, right? May the best man win. Develop your product as best as possible, and let the customers decide, right? It's ultimately, it should be our vote on what makes things great, right? Not politicians running things in the background, or not payouts for lobbyists and whatever else. It should be the people making the decision on which app or which currency or whichever they want to use, right? Whichever service they want to use, we should be able to make that choice. And I think having it open like that is the only and fair way to do it.
Like, the more we are becoming online and less dependent on government and other people, the more we are doing things ourselves. And so the government is losing control because there's just too many humans for any kind of government to manage. There's really nothing they can do. You can't block everything and ban everything. You have to regulate it, like, drugs and cannabis. You can't ban it. People are going to still do it. You have to regulate it. So if, for example, they end up just not banning cryptocurrency but end up regulating it, that means they lose all the power and the control. No mortgages, no banks, no houses, because you can just trade with one fucker who wants to sell his house for you. Sell my land for your house and my Ferrari. So there's going to be no need for governments and banks anymore. So what happens then? Who polices us?
Do we need to be policed?
Have you own private military?
I mean, think of it like we're already protecting our own houses, our own families. I mean, what's so different than not having military police or whatever in the middle of the street? It's coming to a point now where, I mean, there are protests and riots everywhere where people are just getting fed up with the way the governments are running things, right? Look at France 2 years ago, or a year ago, whenever it was. People are sick of the way things are being run, and their voices are actually trying to be heard. And I'm not talking me specifically. I mean, people are sick of not making enough money to support their family. They're sick of, getting fired from their job without compensation. They're sick of the way the government's healthcare is running, or whatever stance they take on it, right? People are fed up and they're sick. They're sick of not being able to support their family. And I think, with Bitcoin, if people are smart about it, they do a little bit of investing or a little bit of research on it, they can make some really, really deep inroads. And like I said at the beginning, this is a different way for people to think about currency in the future. And who cares about what the government's saying? Because you're not going to need them. I mean, really, we barely need banks now. The only reason we need banks now is because we're obligated by law to use a bank.
You are.
Well, I mean,
in Canada.
If you think about it, you can't do anything without a bank account, right? You can't get paid without a bank account. You can't do any checking without a bank account. You can't have any credit without a bank account. There's so many things that are intertwined within it that if you don't have a bank account, you're essentially fucked. Right?
So it's basically basically everyone's going to become the monk in the forest, right? With no one and nothing. And not going to need anything. Because if you go that way, you need everything technology, you need banks, you need people, you need everything's dependent on every single thing, food. Whereas the opposite is a monk eating off some nuts and some fruit. So you're either there or you're there. And if you're there, you're trapped. And if you're here, you're free. But then everything is going to be controlled by all these people. So what do you do? Like the amount of money people earn versus how much you need to have a house and then have food and have a car. Christ. Even if you just save for a damn car, let alone a house, it will take you like 20 years and you'll be dead then. And that's if you haven't actually already got bills to pay because you have not moved out with your parents. And even if you, like me, are living at home still, it's going to take fucking 25 years to save up for a bloody one-bed house. So there's literally, if you want to live in this society, house, car, whatever, you need to work your ass off or borrow. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The only way to get there is to somehow jump. Like somehow make money somehow, whether it's you have to find an alternative like luck, Bitcoin, because you can't jump. It's only getting bigger. What do you do?
Excuse me. See, I'm not sure it's going to be down to the certain individual holding all their own wealth. I think what it is these companies are going to set up these hubs, which I think they do already. They call it a wallet or whatever it is, but they're going to have other hubs. They're going to figure out technology to actually hold all your Bitcoin for you and to make the same moves that a bank would on your behalf. So I think there's still going to be some kind of regulation. I'm just not sure exactly what it's going to be. I don't think we're going to be the monk in the forest. I do believe people need to be regulated to a certain degree, and I believe that people won't know what to do with themselves if they're not, if that makes sense.
And that's the thing, like, no, go on.
No, go ahead.
I thought you finished, sorry. That's the thing. People may companies may set up Bitcoin wallets, and we may have heard about Bitcoin, but how do you teach fucking everyone how to send Bitcoin, how to buy the Bitcoin, how to trade, Binance, like eTorrent, make a wallet? What the fuck is a wallet? Like, how do you coach all these people, old people, young people, how to do it? So again, who the fuck teaches them? Who's qualified? Where the fuck is the Tokyo, whatever his name was, he made the damn coin? Like, yeah, you can't just, like, you need to learn shit.
Yeah, it's going to be strange. I mean, we do it. I mean, if you think about it, everybody on Earth has learned to use some form of money. I mean, so it's not that far out of a realm to use or to teach all these people how to use a different form of money. The problem is, I just don't know if everybody's going to be on board with it, if they're going to trust it. If, you know, I think that's the biggest hurdle for these cryptocurrencies is being able to trust whoever's backing it, right? What's the guy's name? Tahiru Yashimoto, whatever the guy's name.
Tokyo Komogo Wagamama, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. You know, nobody knows who he is, and that scares a bunch of people, right? Why are they going to use a currency where nobody knows who this gentleman is, or whoever the creators are, or group of creators are, and they don't know if they buy into Bitcoin where their money is going? So they're thinking, oh, I'm just buying this. I'm buying something that I have no idea how to use it, and I have no idea where my money is going. So how do I trust it, right? So I think information and all that stuff is going to be good. And knowledge and letting people learn how to use the system, because like I said, we all know how to use regular money. It's really not that difficult if we just switch the thinking a little bit into the Bitcoin and be like, okay, this is how you use money, essentially.
And like, think about it. Every code, Mark Zuckerberg, Apple, right? They always make a back door. FBI, government. There's always a back door. How do we know that this Satoshi guy, who literally is non-existent, he hasn't made a back door, or he's not secretly just like taking a Bitcoin every so often from everyone's wallet? Like, let's just say 0.1% of every single Bitcoin that you don't really notice because of the difference in price. He's taken all this money. Like, we don't even realize he's taking all the Bitcoin. He's worth fucking trillions. And we have no idea he's in some like Himalaya Japanese mountain. And he's got all these computer farms like run by solar panel. And he's taking all these coins and like he's trading with gold bars and diamonds. And how do we fucking know that this person, like, he's built his own back door? Like, well, like me, like, it could be anyone. He could take all the Bitcoins in just like that of everyone. He could just magnetically pull it all and it's all gone. What is a Bitcoin? It never existed.
Exactly. You know, and thanks for ruining it for me, man. I'm actually the creator of Bitcoin, and I opened my back. I was stealing all that cash. Now you fucked me, man. So now I'm screwed.
You're online. You're exposed.
No, and that's the thing, right? Like, I think the security measures involved with Bitcoin, that can never happen. That's just from the technology, I know. But I mean, you never know what could happen for any of these new ones. I know there has been a few cases where some cryptocurrency had some backdoors kind of like that. And people were, I guess, skimming off the top, right? You know, you don't notice a couple pennies every day. But, you know, multiply that by 1 billion people over the course of 10 years, and you're really making some money, right?
There was this website called Yota.biz, right? And it was a pyramid scheme, right? I put about £2,000 in. It's a pyramid scheme. So the money goes up. But that's from the other people that have bought into it. So it goes up, whatever. Anyway, these people, they disappeared. Like, I think that it was trying to be legit because they had their own Skype accounts and their names and you could speak to them, whatever. But they probably realized, holy shit, we've got fucking like thousands of Bitcoins from all these people, and they literally disappeared like that. Their Skype account shut down. These 3 people were like Russian, Switzerland, whatever. They disappeared like that. The site got shut down. Everyone lost their money. So these 3 people out there have got like thousands of Bitcoins that they just decided to run with it. So these people are essentially out there worth, I don't know, millions and billions. And because it's all online, you can't ever trace it. Like, they just disappeared. Like, they disappeared. I put $2,000 into that fucking thing.
Listen, you didn't do your research, didn't vet it yourself, man. And I think we have to stop relying on governments to hold our hands. I think it's up to the individual to actually realize what they're doing with their own money. I think a lot of people do a lot of dumb shit with their own money, so I think responsibility needs to come back to the owner of the currency. I think, like I said, we've had the government hold our hands for too damn long that we have no idea what the fuck we're doing anymore. We have no idea how to make a good investment, how to read any kind of investment portfolio, or even how to read a cryptocurrency book. How to figure this out. We've been bludgeoned to death for so long, getting beat in the forehead that we don't know what the fuck we're doing anymore, right? And the onus has to be on the person. The responsibility has to go on the people, right? If you're making a bad investment, and that's just like the stock market, you invest your money in a wrong place in the stock market, unfortunately, your money's going to go, right? It's going to disappear, kind of just like your investment did, and it sucks. But I think it's going to be tough to police those kind of things if it keeps happening, right? Obviously, people are scammers, so they fucking do. People like that don't deserve a second chance at all. In my book, you steal somebody's money.
In our country, in our country, the police and also like FBI in America, they have actually raided and taken back loads and loads and loads and loads of Bitcoin that was stolen through illegal scams or whatever. So even though it's not much of a common thing, governments and police are essentially taking down the people that stole it, because essentially that is like pound and dollar and US money in that, even though it doesn't exist. Like the money's come from the treasury and it's gone into this Bitcoin. So they have seized like millions of pounds worth of Bitcoin that was essentially stolen. So they are doing things behind closed doors. Like they know that this stuff is happening and they can't really do anything about it apart from try and get a handle on it. But
how did they find the owners for those Bitcoins? Because as far as I know, Bitcoin doesn't have any. There's no ownership to Bitcoin, right? So it's just whatever is in your wallet would be yours. So how did they find the actual owners of the recovered Bitcoin? Do you know?
Again, it's like it could be made up of thousands of people who have sent Bitcoin or like a few Bitcoins. So imagine on his wall, he had like lines of code, so the Bitcoin address. So you'd have like either loads or one could be worth $1 million, 50 could be worth say 100 grand each. There really was like, you can't trace. I mean, I don't know if there's a way to like put someone's wallet address and it comes back with that wallet. But then again, it's like everything's coded. And
yeah, you still there?
Trace back where the Bitcoin came from, because it's just amongst code and no one knows the code unless code's coded to understand the code. Then it's like, what the fuck do you do?
Right.
You can't be like, oh, it's my Bitcoin. Like, where's your proof? There is no proof. Like, what the fuck do you do?
Right. Exactly. Well, I mean, look at it. If you look at the same way the money is, right? You find it $20 on the ground, right? Who's gonna say like, oh, that's mine? Well, prove that it's yours, right? These are things that all have to be worked out. And again, I'm not a Bitcoin expert. I wish I was. But I mean, this is my rudimentary knowledge of what it is. It's I think it'll work in the future. I don't know. It's almost like wait and see, right? Let's see how it plays out. At the same time, you don't want to take chances with your money, right? Nobody does.
Do you think it's crazy, right? How you work to get a good credit score just so you can borrow from the bank to get a mortgage? Just like they're like, okay, if you want to survive this human race, you need survival, you need shelter, you need heat, you need electricity, you need gas. How do we get that, sir? You need a good credit score. Or how do we get that, sir? You borrow money from us and prove you can pay it back. So I have to prove to you that I'm eligible to survive as a human. And then if you have a shit credit score, they say, sorry, we can't give you a house. Like, it's fucking crazy. They've made their own system that you depend on them. It's fucking crazy. Like, unless you've been given land down from your ancestors, you're fucked.
Yeah, it's one of the things. I mean, I don't know how bad it is over there, but in here, it's it's to the point where it's like if you're not making a certain amount of money, yes, you can survive, but it's very, very dwindling. Right? It's a horrible future, or a horrible prospect. Right? Whereas if you make a little bit of money, your name is good, in the bank's eyes, then you're okay. it's very strange to see when guys lose their jobs over here, especially with the economics that are happening right now. Guys are losing their jobs, but it's the worst thing about it isn't the money that they have saved in their bank account. It's that the banks aren't going to work with them anymore because they've lost their jobs, because they have no way of repaying whatever money they need to take out. It's the weirdest fucking thing, man. And I honestly, I don't know why society is still run like this. It's an archaic system. If you think about it, we were supposed to be in tribes of 100 to 150, and that's why we could only remember about 150 people's names, because it's the way our evolution has evolved, right? It's the way we've evolved into what we are now. And to be governed by, let's take Canada, 35, 37 million people by one person, or a group of 100 people, is fucking daft. It really is. It's one of the things where you look at it and go, how the fuck are we not structuring this differently, right? As you know, I don't know if you know this or not, but Western Canada is looking to separate from the rest of Eastern Canada. There's been a whole movement going on, and I know you said no politics, so I won't get into too much craziness here, but excuse me, because we're not represented in the House of Parliament as we think we should be. So there's big movement going on about Alberta and Western Canada separating from Canada, almost like just almost like Brexit and the EU you guys had going on there. But we want to be able to control our own things and have our own government governs less people. And I think that's the way societies can be broken down now. In the next probably 100 years, people aren't going to want to be governed by one person with 350 million people in the case of the United States. We want to be governed by, not necessarily go back to our tribes of 100 people or 150 people, but somewhere around the 1 million, 2 million, 3 million mark. I think that's manageable. I don't think you can understand everybody that you're going to be within the group if you have 25, 35 million, 350 million in the case of the States. And I don't know how many people the UK has, but to be governed by one person is essentially ridiculous.
I believe that we're all going to go back to essentially countries are going to be divided up into multiple countries. So, for example, the states of America will be different countries. So we've come from one tribe to two tribe to three tribe to four tribe to one big fucking tribe. Now there's going to be too many people in a tribe where we're going to sort of like create our own tribe. So you've got the vegan tribe, the black tribe, the we hate Hitler tribe, we like Hitler tribe. You've got like transgender tribe. You've got like global warming, alien tribe. Essentially a set of beliefs, but own tribes. Just like back in the day, if someone comes along and is a threat to their tribe, then they'll fight. But states are going to basically become small countries. In, like, as you said, Canada, you've got like North Canada, East Canada, whatever. It's just going to become, you can't manage all these people. So we're going to have our own rules and regulations. So yeah, it's going to go to a smaller tribe, but not like 150, probably like a few million. So yeah, that has to happen. Like, if it doesn't happen, there'll just be civil wars because you've got too many people with all their own beliefs. Vegan cat versus like Hitler's a god. They're just going to fight each other unless you like separate and sort of fuck off from our old tribe. That is actually, yeah.
It was interesting. On one of the shows on one of the podcasts we do, a buddy of mine said people don't need freedom, they need segregation. And before you get some crazy emails whatever about this comment, he's a Caribbean guy that's always believed that we shouldn't be divided obviously by our color, we shouldn't be divided by color, but we should be divided by beliefs, just kind of like what you were saying, almost because there are people that are so stupid they cannot make decisions themselves. But if put those people with other people of their mindset, there's going to be an intelligence level, right, where they can govern themselves. People need less choice and more segregation, is what he was always saying. And it was interesting to me. I didn't agree with it for years, and I'm looking at it now, going, maybe we don't need segregation in the classical sense, but we need to be divided by more like what you were saying, what our beliefs are, or how we are as people, or how we define ourselves, or whatever process you use to divide and segregate. That definitely needs to happen, because as I'm seeing now, and I'm sure you are too, the government doesn't know everybody, and the government's going to piss off a lot of people. And if we're able to govern ourselves and divide into those groups, yes, there's still going to be some infighting. Yes, there's still probably going to be wars between different groups, But at least if we're governing ourselves with some type of higher body within the groups, at least, you know, our voices are being heard, even if it is 3 million other people beside us, not 350 million other people.
Yeah, so like you've got the United States tribe, the Indian tribe, the Chinese tribe, the African tribe, right? Those tribes have become really, really big. Now because we can fly and get on the boat and drive, we're all breeding with each other. So now even though you're black and you're Chinese, you're part of the American belief system, you're part of the Chinese belief system. Now there's a vegan belief system and a Hitler belief system and I'm a gender fluid belief system. So now everyone's like, not just pure Indian, pure black, pure American. We're a bit of everything. We're like, everyone's mixed. Like everyone's going to be not pedigree, not pure anymore. We're going to be mixed with other places. So now you're going to be living in a country and you're mixed, where that belief system is different to your native belief system. So now countries are going to be not where you were born on the earth. It's just going to be a belief system of where you're focusing your mind on. So online, for example, if you're watching all this Hitler crap, you're going to be Hitler country. And if you're looking at all these poor little vegan cats starving or whatever, you're going to be like the vegan cat tribe. And so now it's going to be like, I can reach out to another tribe over there. You're now going to move house all the way over there. That could be India, Scotland, whatever. But that's where the vegan tribes are. And then everyone there who's like a black tribe, they're like, fuck these vegan twats. I'm going to go back over here because I'm a Hitler tribe, man, even though I'm black. So now you've got the Hitler tribes here, the vegan tribes, the cryptocurrency tribes, the I believe in alien tribes. Every tribe is going to be a belief system rather than a location of where they were born.
Yeah, and you know what? That's why. I mean, I don't know if you heard my other show. One of our other shows called the Podcastish Podcast. It's the show that it literally gets millions of hits simply because of the controversy that we bring, and that we had a conversation about cultural appropriation. So this whole cultural appropriation thing that's happening in the States. Have you heard of this? Where white people aren't allowed to have dreadlocks and all this bullshit.
Yeah, I had dreadlocks and braids. I thought, fuck that bollocks.
You know,
black man like, doesn't own the dreadlock. It's my head just knotted because I didn't bloody brush it.
Exactly, right. And I think cultural appropriation is bullshit because, I mean, just what you said, right? There's people that from all over the world that move to other countries. They want to assimilate to those countries, right? So they're going to take on them customs and traditions, and it's a sign of respect to take on other things like that, right? And I don't know if you guys hear all the news about the States of how fucking crazy it is. You know, it's so many people. You're only allowed to act what you are. You're not allowed to assimilate or bring any other tradition from any other fucking culture into your life, or else you're a fucking piece of shit, right? That's the type of shit there's just like, shut the fuck up with this bullshit. This is what we need. We need to be able to assimilate. We need to be able to have these conversations. We need to be able to get along together and use each other's shit. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a shit if I'm twerking? Not me. Who gives a shit if somebody's twerking and they're a white girl? Who gives a fuck? Right? Who gives a fuck if a white person's got dreads? Who gives a fuck if we listen to hip hop music? Who gives a fuck? All of this shit is going to melt eventually, right? We all have, if everybody wants to be with each other and be calm and be happy and not fighting, okay, let other people use your shit. It's not cultural appropriation. It's called migration and evolution. You dumb fucks. Right? Like,
yeah, like you migrate from a place where you're using tools to get your fish, and as you keep migrating, you see other animals using different tools to survive. It's not, hey fucker, I was using this fucking sharp stone on a stick first. Why are you doing that? So all these like little traditions of how people live. It's like, well, it's evolution of copying patterns to survive. It's like, well, you can't do that. That's a black people. Why can't I dread my hair? Black people were doing that. Why the fuck can't I do that? It's like different Facebook groups. You've got like as I said, the vegan group, the Hitler group, the whatever group. At what point do people come off these groups and talking online and feeling empowered and actually start to move and create new civilizations based on beliefs? Because obviously there are, like, as I said, like the Nazi tribes and the Ku Klux Klan tribe. They do exist. Some middle of Alabama, nowhere. There's just like campfire and people living in cabins. That does exist. But what point does it become like more popular, like there actually becomes a vegan city where they've all got their cats eating fucking lettuce?
You know, and that's the thing. It's like, even if you are a vegan, you want to divide into the vegan tribe. Okay, that's great. We're already doing that within these larger platforms of cities, right? We already have these little groups segregating off. So it's not a huge stretch to say, let's make a city of vegans. Let's make a city of meat eaters. Let's separate all these people. But then again, if you're looking at it, we're gonna regress back into these tribes of whatever, and not have integration is it's going to be a sad day, because if I'm with people that are all the same mindset as me, yeah, sure, we're going to get along fine, but we're not going to have I don't think there's going to be any innovation, or at least not to the extent that we've had now. We're going to have smart people in each group, but you're not going to have the innovation by being able to converse with other people of different mindsets and having different ideas flow back and forth, and the information sharing that we have now. I think things are going to come to a stalemate, where it's like we can't progress any further because we've used all the knowledge that we have in this particular group, and we're not allowed to talk to this other group. Does that make sense, or am I talking way the fuck?
No, absolutely. So it's easier to be in harmony with someone as opposed to disharmony, because it just doesn't feel good. But then when you're in harmony with someone who knows the same thing, you become two monks who go to a seminar. They don't say anything because they already know what the teacher's teaching about, and everyone else who doesn't know are sharing information. So when you know the same, you become one, and there's nothing to say. So yeah, it's fucking boring. Like, there's no innovation, no creativity. You don't get any ideas. Like, when you say stuff, which I've not thought about, like the Ollie talks, whatever. Yeah, I might be a bit angry. I didn't think of that first. I might use it. I might not. But you need that to fire up other things that you don't know. Like, if we knew the same knowledge, we'd be speaking because we already fucking know the same knowledge. So that's how we've evolved, by sharing survival skills and looking at how that animal got there and how it jumped from that rock to that rock without falling in. He went round, he went under. That's part of evolution.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's one of those things, right? You don't want to follow the leader, right? Everybody's trying to be different these days. Look at what we're doing right now. We're having a video call recording, so you can put it up as a podcast wherever you're putting it, right? And it's like people are doing these things because they want their own 15 minutes of fame, for lack of a better term. People want to be recognized for their own skills, while at the same time, like, I'm sure if you and I, if we got to those little groups, you and I would probably not be in the same group, or maybe we would, who knows. But think about how many other people you've interviewed, or how many of the people you've had on your show, where it's like you have 100 different guests. Not everybody's going to be within your same group. If we're not allowed to have these conversations, I mean, what the fuck are we doing? You're not spreading any information anywhere else. You're going to be within your little group. So, what you're doing is something great, where you're being able to talk to however many people you talk to within the lifespan of the show, and being able to have information come in at you and analyze that information and use that information to the best of your ability. And not only that, pass that information on to other guests who may not have heard the information from somebody else, right? So you're like this conduit, helping everybody else, navigate this minefield of whatever the fuck they're talking about. If we can't have those conversations with other people, then there's no point to fucking living. What is the point of life, really? And let's get a little philosophical here, right?
Yeah, no, great.
In my eyes, the purpose, the meaning of life is to gain information. If you really think about it, that's all we're doing from the minute we're born to the minute we die, is gaining information. Whether that be information through speech, through talking, through touch, through what we see. We're always analyzing information. Even when we look at something, our brain has to analyze what we're seeing for us to know what the hell it is, right? Even when we're working, whenever you do for work, you're always on your job working, learning. Even if you think you know something 100%, there's going to be one thing that comes up. You go, oh shit, I'm learning again, right? Every single day, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. We're always learning. It could be something we already know, and we're just analyzing that data again, or we're bringing something else in, and we're going, okay, can I use this? No, I can't. Throw it out this way. Can I use it? Cool. Internalize it. Let's go. It's essential for humans to keep learning. And I think that's why people get bored. That's why people commit suicide, because they cannot learn how to deal with a certain situation. So they say, this is the end. I cannot deal with this because I do not know how to deal with it. I can't learn how to deal with it. Let's just done it all. Kill ourselves, right? Everything happens because of information or lack of information. And that's what we are, man. If I can't learn from you, if you can't learn from me, and if I'm not able to learn from one of your guests that you had 4 months ago on the show, there's no point. Because I'm sure there's things you said even just today on this show, on this episode, that you might not have known except for a guest that you've had a while ago. Or maybe you have. Who knows? Either way, I'm getting information, you're receiving information, and we're processing it to the best of our ability, right?
Yeah, it's amazing because like if we were to just like go on a Facebook page and start speaking about what we've, or if I start speaking about what I've said and you start speaking about what you said, you'd have everyone coming along saying that's wrong, you can't say that, blah 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 blah. It's always like they're waiting for that thing that they disagree with so they can project their own belief, as opposed to hearing that person out, seeing it from that person's point of view, understanding what they mean, can they learn, and then taking it on board. Like, this is the podcast where we want to know things we don't already know. Whereas most people, as soon as they hear something they don't already believe in, they switch off, they attack, and it's wrong. So the contrast of this, learning stuff that we don't already know versus everyone else, and how they're doing the opposite. They're waiting for stuff that they don't already know so they can attack, whereas I'm waiting for stuff that I don't already know so I can absorb. It's literally black and white. It's just fascinating. Like, it's all online, but it's the mindset of wanting to know something I don't know. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong. Tell me how to be right. Everyone else already think they're right, and they're waiting to be able to say that you're wrong so they can project all their beliefs on you.
Yeah, nobody wants to take a step back and analyze what they're saying. Like, if I mean, I say it all the time, like, I'm always right until I'm wrong. I mean,
that's exactly what I say.
Right. That's my tagline for my podcast, right? The Morning Pea is I'm always right until I'm wrong. You'll hear me go off on 10, 15-minute pure rants over shit I know nothing about until one of my listeners corrects me. All right. So then I know, okay, let's have some fun with it. I do the rant, and then somebody corrects me and say, okay, listen, I'm wrong. And let me tell you why I'm wrong. Right. I don't think most people that don't have the experience as you do, speaking with a bunch of people over and over again, people don't have the experience of analyzing what they've said and realizing when they were wrong. And I don't think people want to say that they're wrong. People don't want to be, for lack of a better term, disrespected because they were wrong, right? We don't want that shame of, or the people busting our balls because we're wrong about something, right? There's all this pride associated with it. And I'm one of the guys that's just like, okay, if I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong, but I'll also tell you why I thought I was correct. Right. So I do the backhanded type thing back and forth. But most people, like you said, aren't like that. Most people are like, no, I'm right. This is why I'm right. This is why you're wrong. They're black and white. You know, they're going to attack you instead of taking in that information and saying, hey, listen, maybe I was incorrect. Let's maybe have a conversation about it. It's one of the things now that we have technology. It's the best thing that's ever happened to us and the worst thing that's ever happened to us, because not only do we not have to have conversations with anybody because of our phones, we can actually avoid society in whole because of technology. So we don't have to have these face-to-face interactions anymore. I mean, I'm sure it was the same as you growing up. We didn't have phones. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have shit like that, right? I'm a little older than you, I think. I'm 37 years old, almost 38. Coming up in the 90s, if you wanted to have a conversation with someone, you'd have it to their face. And if you said something wrong, well, you're probably going to get sacked out, right? There's no fear of that now when it comes to online, whatever you're talking about, right? So, I mean, that's a whole different conversation in itself. But I think the morals and the values that you learn not knowing how to defend your argument in person is a lot different than learning how to say something and run online. And I could be completely off, but I think that's how it is.
Yeah, like, I'm very smart like you. I know a lot of stuff. I can ramble about stuff I know and that I don't know, because it's only a fact because a science person has proved it in a lab, physical. A majority have believed something which has gone believed over many, 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 many years, and no one really knows where the source came from. So that's classed as a fact, like as majority is what everyone knows. That's not really a fact either. Science changes when you realise you fucked up because the temperature wasn't the right temperature. And if you go back to belief systems, which are known as like majority of facts, it's bollocks anyway. So nothing is real. It's all about, being able to talk and sort of convince the person that you're right. It's not about being right. It's you're projecting your knowledge. If it suits them and they can take it on board in a good way, fantastic. It's not about being wrong or right. I love being wrong. I love suddenly becoming aware that I was wrong. Because when I'm right all the time, which I am, and I only speak if I am confident that I've got like the source or the proof to back up. If I will only speak if I am right, because I don't like to be wrong. Hence why I'm never wrong. Because if I doubt myself, I won't say it. But when I am wrong, for example, I really take note of that person who has the balls to say I'm wrong, and I start interviewing them. Why am I wrong? Tell me why I'm wrong. What do you say about that? Tell me. I want to know how to be right if I was wrong. Okay, so I love being wrong because it's a rare thing, but it fascinates me when someone says something. I'm like, fuck me. I did not know that, which changes everything. Now I've got to, like, in my mind, erase all that bollocks and sort of like go down a different path. But I love being wrong because it's part of life, part of an entrepreneur, making mistakes, failing, getting up. Like, just love it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like if you don't have the self-awareness, or if you don't have the internal fortitude to say listen, or to take the hit when you're wrong, because like you said, entrepreneurship is all about failing. I think life is all about failing, really. We go on every single day, hoping things get better or doing things so that they're better, right? And if you're not failing, you're not going to improve your skills at all, because if everything just keeps going right for you, then there's no need to change anything. There's no need to do anything better. But if something's failing, okay, why did it fail? Learn from that mistake. Let's try something different. There's 1,000 different ways to paint a wall, So, and I think now people are getting a little bit frustrated where they're like, okay, something didn't work when we're painting that wall. So how was I right? And this person said I should do it this way, but I'm not going to believe them now. So I'm going to try it again. And that's just the definition of crazy, trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I'll take what you said. I love being wrong myself. We have, and I can see it already with you. We both have this, not a combative back and forth or attitude, but we have this, I'm able to say whatever I want to say because I want to say it. And if I'm wrong, okay, I'll walk that back in the future, as long as somebody else can explain to me why I was incorrect. And I think a lot of people have that mindset, but they don't want to walk it back. They'll just go on to the next thing, right? They'll forget about, oh, I was wrong there, I'm not going to address it, I'm just going to go on to the next thing. Whereas the best thing to do would be to say, okay, I was wrong, and do what you do. Interview the person. Why was I wrong? Tell me how I was wrong. Let me learn from this experience. Most people don't want to do that because, embarrassment or pride or whatever else comes into it. And, people aren't used to feeling the negative emotions. People want to feel all the good emotions, right? You have endorphins running through. But I think without challenge and without struggle, you cannot be the best possible person you can be.
Like an entrepreneur, every no is one step to a yes, right? Every time someone is wrong, it's now an opportunity to be right next time. I said to my mum, just admit you're wrong, learn why you were wrong, and you can be right more next time. Would you not rather, as you live through your life, be more right because of you were wrong? Or would you rather just not admit when you're wrong and stay there forever? Like, you have to learn that when you are wrong, you can learn how to be right, which means you're going to be wrong less in the future. It's a fucking good thing that you're wrong, mate. Fucking admit you're wrong. Like, it's not a bad thing. And ego comes in, pride. But yeah, animals, when they migrate, as they are moving to where the sun is, you might have a mountain, you might have a swamp, you might have prickles and shit. So it's not going to be a smooth journey to the sunset, to the next meal. There's always going to be shit in the way. So life, yeah, if you stay where you are, there's no struggle. If you're lucky that the sun stays there and you've got enough fish forever, fantastic. But life, there's always going to be struggle. Animals have to migrate. It's going to be cold. They're going to starve for 3 days, maybe 5 days. There might be a blizzard. Yeah, they might never make it. There's always going to be a struggle in life. Just because, like, fucking supermarket brings all the food here, we're used to, like, no struggle. We can bloody order food on our app, no struggle. We don't feel negative energy, anxiety, depression in that sense anymore because we have it easy. So all of a sudden someone says you're wrong. No, fucking not. They're not used to that, like that disharmony with someone, and that's why people have so much anxiety and depression, because they're becoming trapped. That this little nice world in their head doesn't exist. So they're sort of feeling all this, like, negativity, and their friends saying you're wrong, and the banks and the mortgage, and I've got to get a job, and your parents, like, I can't cope with all this shit. So then you have anxiety in your head. No one's addressing shit. Like, they have to admit they're wrong, or they're ever just staying in this cocoon, and as life goes on, their cocoon's getting smaller and smaller, and it's just getting worse.
Yeah, again, we're going back into the groups thing, right? I mean, like, it's this whole segregation thing. If we're going to segregate off, we might as well segregate off into idiots and genius, right? Because that way we don't have to put up with the idiots that don't want to admit when they're wrong, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, it's one of those things where people grow in different ways, right? So they're either going to grow within their little group, or they're going to expand their horizons. I'm not sure many people have traveled as much as I have. When there was over 200 countries, I'd been to over 200 countries in the world.
Fuck me.
Right. So I know the difference between starving people and really rich people, right? I mean, You go to some places in Africa and you're looking, or even South America even, and you're looking at people that are living in, tin shacks, right? Whereas you
Literally,
go
yeah.
to, yeah, whereas you go to Monte Carlo, and you're looking at your Monte Carlo casino. You're looking at one of the most extravagant places on the face of the planet. And you're like, wow, how is there such a disparity, right? And I honestly think what it is because of knowledge and the information, right? Admitting, and that's a whole different topic, by the way. But what I get out of traveling and all those, seeing all these different things, is that things could be a lot better, but yes, things could be a lot worse too. I mean, right now most people are in this middle ground, making about anywhere from 35,000 Canadian to, let's say, 100,000 Canadian, and that's kind of mid range for the rest of the world. Um, People are always striving to have more money, and more power, and more respect, or whatever they're striving for. And I think if we can actually realize that what we have is is great at the moment, and enjoy the process of getting to the next step, right? Enjoy the process of getting to the next level, taking the time out for our kids, or taking the time out for our spouse, doing things that we really enjoy doing, that isn't things that aren't detrimental to society, but are positive, in our life, because it gives us a warm fuzzy feeling. Does that make sense? Like, so I'll
Absolutely.
go I'll go play baseball with my son because I love playing baseball with my son. I'm not worried about, how I'm going to pay for his schooling or his college or whatever. I'm not worried about that right now. Yes, there's a plan in place, and yes, I can learn from other people when it comes to that time. But we need to enjoy each other's company, more. I think we're such in this technological age where I can look at Ollie in the UK, 7 hours ahead of me. It's what, 1:30, almost 2 o'clock there, 2:30 there, and it's 7:30 in the morning here. We're having a conversation live, and I can learn. I've learned so much from you that if I was to see you in person, I'd be like, hey, we're friends, where we've never met before, right? Where the past was never like that. The past was always like, if you don't know this person, you don't know this person. There's no other way to communicate with them. And I think being able to take that information I've learned and apply that to the things that I want to do and get these warm, fuzzy feelings, um, makes you a better person, regardless of how you see the situation. When you travel to all these places and you see the disparity, and you see how in the poorest of poor places they treat their family the exact same way that the richest of rich do, right? It's family. Everybody loves each other. It's one of those things where you see, like, okay, money doesn't really matter. It's not about the money. It's about the experience you're having. And that's how I feel about it. So money's never been a huge, huge issue with me. In fact, um, one of the things that happened in my life, which made it that money wasn't a thing, is my parents divorced, um, over money. Some things happened, blah blah blah. But my parents were divorced over money, so it's like, okay, I never wanted money to be an issue in my life. So I've kind of made that the goal. I've made it to, I did a lot of things that made me a lot of money, a lot of things that made me broke as well. You've been when you've been to both sides as well. Uh, I guess your mindset changes, and yeah, I think it's more, you have to roll with the feelings and roll with who you are as a human, and realize what actually matters instead of what doesn't.
So without social media, without planes and online and shit, for example, we look at like America, big houses, whatever. You go to like India or whatever, loads of like, tin shacks, whatever. Yeah, they've got the family, they're all sharing the food. She's squatted on her, like, she's bent on her legs. And it's all about the love. And you're like, well, how can you just be so happy with living in a bloody tin shack? But if you take away online, how do we know that those people and that way of living hasn't been around for thousands of years, but only because we have evolved quicker for whatever reason, that we now have big houses, but like essentially a mud hut, a cave, to a snow igloo, to a house underground, that metal thing that they're all like in the same place. How do we know that that hasn't been around for thousands of years? We see it as poverty, right? And then we go there, and as you said, they're happy. It's about family, it's about community, it's about food. And we're like, how the fuck do they live like that? But they could have lived like that for thousands of years. That's not poverty, that's not rich, that's just fucking living, that's just existing. So again, that's not poverty. You need a comparison. Like, that's what's good, what's bad. You need to know what's good and what's bad to know the difference. That's bad because you wouldn't want to live in a little tin shed compared to your big Malibu mansion. But they could have been doing that for thousands of years. Like, people have lived in caves for years, and yet they're so happy. Why? They've got the basics: shelter, food, community, and love, which is what every other fucker who's got these big houses. So they're the ones who are winning. Why are they in poverty? You say, oh, we wish you could help them. They don't want our fucking help. That's the problem with all like these wars and shit. You're interfering with our life. Fuck off and focus on your life. Let us focus on our shit. Like,
right, then they don't want the material bullshit. They don't care about the material bullshit. I think, you know, this society has been, all this shit's been crammed down our throat for so long that people, they think they need all this bullshit, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, it's nice to have, right? It's great to experience these things, but really, do we fucking need it? No, you know. And it's one of those things where if we can get back to this whole family matters things instead of oh, you know, both parents are out of the house working, you know, 16 hours a day or 12 hours a day just to be able to afford the mortgage. Are you really living fucking life? Does that, like, while your kids are at home and they got to fend for themselves, make their own dinner and do their own homework and shit like that, that doesn't make fucking sense to me. Like I said, the only thing we have, or what life is about about information, right? If I'm not providing the information to my kid, who is, right? You're gonna have more people, all the internet and everything, all this media coming at my son, trying to tell him that having more money and having more things is the way to be. Whereas I have the experience of going to places and I know that's not the way it is. So I should be the one telling him that's not how it is. You don't need all this stuff. What we need to do let's go play some baseball, or let's go outside and play the park. Family is the most important thing. Enjoying the experience, right? Enjoying the travel and the journey.
It's like, if you couldn't afford university, which most people in England simply cannot, right? You have to borrow. So therefore, if you left school and you got a job based on no qualifications, you're looking at, if you're lucky, 20 grand a year. Let's say the average house, for example, is, say, 200 grand, right? It's going to take you 24, 60, 10 years, for example, just to buy a house. Now, that means you'd have to be living with your parents until you're 28 years old, okay? Now, the reality is that you can't spend a fucking penny. You can't go clubbing. You can't go to cinema. You can't have a car. You can't have a phone. You can't have shoes. You've got to be a monk for 10 years just until you can afford this house. But not to mention, when you get there, that house has gone up. Okay, now you've got the house. How are you going to pay for the heating and electricity? Okay, TV, Sky, internet, digital satellite box, sofas. Fucking sofa costs 2 grand. Curtains cost fucking grand. Now you've got to say, no, you've got to live back with your parents. You've bought a fucking house. You've got to move back to your parents. Save up for the damn sofa, for the damn carpet, for the damn phone, the fucking cooker, the stove, the kettle. This costs thousands. So now you're 38. You've got your house. You finally saved up for the contents in it. Okay. You'll be fucking dead by then. You can't spend a penny until then. So unless you go to uni to get a bigger job, it's not possible to simply earn enough just to get a 1-bed house. You can't live, you can't do anything. So like the credit score, you have to get a credit score in order to get a fucking house. As you were saying, you have to, you need money in order to get this, and this. Okay, maybe so if I want to go down that path and have a house and have a lawnmower and have a fucking car. But reality is, people in India, China, whatever, be living in this metal shacks all along each other, and all they do is get up and share food and move the donkey around with the hay, and like, that's just part of their life, and they're happy. A lot of those places, they live for a very long time. People in India and China and shit, they outlive like all, like, you know, Americans and shit. They die of fucking heart disease and too much KFC. These people, they live fucking ever. You see this like little old Indian lady, wrinkles, like, how old are you? She's like 95 and she's still walking. Like, so yeah, if you need the system, the point is that if you don't go to uni, you're going to be I'm 28, right? No way I can fucking afford a house. To save 100 grand forever, I'm just present. I'm enjoying my life, spending time with my family, having another meal, because I know at some point I'll move that and it'll be the last. And I'll look back and I'll be like, all those times my mum made me food and that gave me a meal, bought me a cup of tea. That's gone. So I'm really treasuring, like, every time she brings me a tea. I'm 28, but the connection is still the same, whether I'm 14 or 28. It's that nurturing connection of service. And yeah, like, you can't beat it. You can only tell your son that money is bollocks unless you want a fucking car worth 80 grand. But you don't need that. And yeah, someone needs to give knowledge that there's an alternative knowledge out there than just to what you see and hear and teach at school, whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the trend of what's going on now, right? I mean, you see, I hate to use the phrase millennials. You see millennials and younger generations coming up saying, well, I know the system is supposed to be this way, and why are we doing it this way when this way is so much better? And and by that I mean people aren't looking at the system of the buy the house, have the car, buy the house, find the girl, get married, have kids. They're not doing it in that the whole systemized matter anymore, right? Things are all over the place, and people are realizing that money isn't everything. People are realizing that okay, they don't need a $10 million house, they don't need $150,000 car. They can have friends where they're loved and they're respected and they cherish those relationships. People aren't just chasing money anymore. People are chasing friendship and knowledge and this warm fuzzy feeling. And I think ultimately that's what we all want, right? We all want that loving hug from our mother, right? And we're looking for that in everybody that we meet, right? And now that may not come from a hug necessarily, right? I mean, it come from engaging conversation like we're having. It could come from, going out with your mates and one of your guys buying you your beer. Who cares where it comes from, right? We're looking for that connection because I think we've lost it in this age of communication, age of technology.
Yeah, like what fascinates me is that if you look at, like, say, the rich people in my country, the poor and the middle class, and then you go up north and you see like all these types of lifestyles, and I'm like, wow, there's essentially a way of living as, say, let's say a tribe. In England, you've got, say, like fucking 60 tribes, yeah, Scotland, Wales, whatever. And then you go to America, all those states. Then you go to India. Then you go to China, Italy, Greece, Spain, all these countries, different ways of living. You realize, holy shit, there is like thousands of different tribes and ways of living and cultures. And we sort of feel like there's this like one thing, which is money. Like everything has become about money. And you go to all these tribes and all these places, and what's the one thing they have in common? Service, family, people. Like I go to Italy, for example, I'm a stranger. They'll invite me back to their house and we're having olives, having pasta, bread, wine. They don't know who the fuck I am, but I'm just another human. I'm like a family member, a connection. You don't have to know them. They're just a fucking human. Connect. And like
I think what it is like, sorry, I think what it is like you said, there's thousands of different ways to be within your own family community, right? And I think that 1001 would be that money thing where the government has said this is how we think you should live. So here, take all this money and do all that, and that's one way of living, right? Kind of the whole Western society of ways of living. Whereas you look at Eastern philosophies and you look at Eastern ways of living, and you think, okay, like you said, these people are all with their families, and there's a million different ways to do that. And if you take the money out, we're essentially all the same. We can go different places. I'm sure I can go to the UK and find somebody that will take me into their house. That I'm sure I can do it simply because of the way human nature works, right? You don't need the money. So when we take that out, like you said, you learn so much from so many different cultures that you just, you go to Eos in Greece and sit on the beach and have a big party, 24-hour party, and then you take a flight over to Italy somewhere, and then to Spain, and you see all these different things. All the people are essentially the same. They're just expressing themselves in different ways. An expression has become huge, and it's been inflated because of obviously the culture, and of course because of technology. All of this culture is being disseminated amongst everybody else, and we get to see how other people live, and that's great. Except we're comparing it to how we live, and I think that's the biggest thing. We're not able to experience it, so we'll compare, and then now here's where the money comes in. Okay, that's what they have. This is what I have. Let me go above and beyond, keeping up with the Joneses type shit. Because now our neighbor is not just our neighbor. Our neighbor is now the guy in fucking Monte Carlo, or the guy in the UK, or the guy in South America that has more than we have. And who gives a fuck? It's the weirdest thing. We don't need to keep up with everybody. We need to make sure our family's safe and we're respected in our community, and that we have information to pass on to our youth. That's it. That's really it.
That's the thing. Like in terms of like, like America and Canada and England, if everything is owned by money, then you need money to survive. And if everything that you see around you that goes into your mind, a new phone, a new cinema, a new top, new shoes, in your brain, it becomes your thought. And then you realize, okay, that's £1,000 phone. How many hours have I got to put in to get that? So now you're continuously trying to save for the phone, and then a new pair of shoes comes in, and then this happens, and then this happens. We're constantly saving and earning for money. It's like it doesn't end. It's like a bill that's not actually a debt, but when you're saving for something, it becomes like a chase for money. It doesn't end. And we're all becoming so unhappy trying to save up for this next thing, and then the phone becomes more expensive, and then your car breaks down. This never ending of money, all because of what? It was a thought that was put in your head. And just take it back. What actually matters? Family and love. Like people in India and China who basically live in these like metal shacks in like, the Iran refugee, whatever. They don't need money because all they need is food and water. As long as that person's trading that calf beef for that fucking potato, for that carrot, like the old days, what is money? Money buys the food, but they're just trading food. Like you see them, like man's carrying like bananas on his head. They've got enough food to survive. They've got enough water or whatever, and they just wake up and have a fight, whatever the fuck. So they don't need money. So again, when you're chasing money, you forget what actually matters, which is just a connection. Doesn't have to be family related, because like, if you're adopted, then they love you just the same, and you can go back to your native family. There's no connection, because even though you're Chinese, you're actually made up of English, like morals and shit. So again, it's nothing to do with family. It's just you do the human connection. And if you put love out, you'll get love back. Like as you say, I can go to Canada, find a random person to put me up for a few nights, just because I'm just a human.
Right. I mean, we're never going to, nobody ever wants people to be disparaged, right? We want to help as much as we can. It's in our nature. It's human nature to want to help. And I think, again, it goes back to this technology thing where it's the lack of actual human interaction. The 15 minutes online isn't the same as, the an hour and a half having a conversation. And I think a lot of people need to get back to that. A lot of people need to get out and just have conversations, whether it be, online like this, where you can actually interact with a person live or in person. People need to do that more. I don't think we're doing that. I think people are so within their, they got the blinders on. They're just looking straight ahead. They don't want to deviate at all because they're scared of what they might find. Whether that be because it'll force them to improve their life or improve what they're doing or take responsibility for what they're doing and improve, which is tough. People don't want to improve because it's tough. Or it'll make them see how everybody else is doing much better than them. And again, they don't want to change. And I think, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we have the ability now to be who we are, no matter what time of day it is, no matter what year it is, to be who we are and make a living at it. But is that really the life you want to live? Do you just want to make money and not do anything else? Or do you want some connection, some human connection, some growth, some personal growth in your life? And I think everybody's striving for that. And I think that's what we should be striving for.
When you you're asleep, for example, you're looking up at the sun, there's that little like floating bit of moisture in your eye, yeah? And then when you focus on it, it keeps moving. Do you know what I mean by that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you focus on it, it keeps moving, and then you sort of don't focus, it comes back. So people are like, they're on their phone, you try and speak to them, they want a conversation, but they're trying to achieve a feeling or the boost of serotonin, dopamine on their phone. They're like flicking through Instagram for something to do, for some change. Like, let me just do this first. I'm trying to seek something within. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to keep doing this. Then I'll speak to you. 50 years passes, they're still trying to do that. So you're trying to focus on that bit of moisture in your eye. And every time you do it, it keeps moving. The ball, the corner pitch keeps getting pushed down the line that you never quite get there. And I was this person, and I became aware that what I'm searching isn't on the outside. It's not, don't speak to me, I'm just doing something weirdo. Like, just you're trying to find a connection, but that's the connection. It's not on your phone. It's just you think it's on your phone because you haven't acknowledged that it's not on the phone. So you're just continuously like focusing on that bit of moisture in your eye, hoping you'll eventually align it. And then when you stop trying to focus on it, that bit of moisture stays there. And if you just become present and see that moisture and accept that he's there, as opposed to sort of keep focusing on it. Because when I focus on it, it keeps fucking moving. Yeah. You realize that what you want is just there. And how do you explain to somebody, how do you explain to 50 people on the tube who are on their phone looking for the same thing I was, connection, that when I speak to you, that is what you're after, that connection of speaking to some random person. Once you get over the fact that weirdo speaking to me, who does that anymore? That is what you're searching for. But how do you explain that? You can't.
It was funny. I was just thinking the exact same thing you said. Like this whole conversation, you haven't asked me. You literally didn't ask. You didn't ask me my name because I know this is going out. So you haven't asked me my name. You haven't asked me what I've done. You haven't asked me what I do to make a living. Those things to me are so trivial, right? That as soon as we started talking, you asked one question, and next thing you know, we're able to have a conversation because both of us realize that this is what we're doing. We're having a conversation now, right? We've stopped. We put everything else, all distractions away, and we're having a conversation. Right.
We have not looked at our phone once.
Exactly. And that's, when you have conversations with people, I think that's what's really missing. People don't know how to converse anymore. But I listen to very successful podcasts. I'm not sure if you do as well. Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Budden podcast.
All the fucking time.
All the guys that you see. And it introduces me to a bunch of different characters that, okay, even if I don't like this person's stance on something, I'm still going to listen to the episode because they may say something. It could be a 5-second little snippet of the 3.5 hours, but they could say one thing that really resonates with me. Whereas I think people, scrolling Instagram and scrolling Facebook and Twitter, if you go to these platforms looking for a fight, you can find one, right? You're gonna get interaction regardless. If you go looking for a fight, you're gonna find one. If you go looking for, people to reinforce your mindset, you're gonna find it. If you go looking for love or help, you're gonna find it. And like I said, instead of reaching out to actual humans, people are reaching out to their phones. They're treating these devices as if the device loves them. And to be able to, I know people that can't put down their phone for dinner. We kind of have a rule now when we go out with friends or whatever else. It's not necessarily. It's kind of an unspoken gesture. We'll all take our phones. We'll put them on a blacked out screen. Put them upside down in the middle of a table. First one to reaches for their phone pays for the fucking table.
Amazing! Fucking hell, that's amazing. I've heard or seen that before somewhere.
Yeah, I can't remember where I picked that up from, but
yeah,
it's probably one of those conversations, right? Where it's like, hey, look, that could be useful. Let's try this. Amazing. And it's amazing. It works great, right? It's just so weird. It's so fucking weird how people. I hate using just people as a pejorative, right? I hate when others are around other people. It's almost like this. Technology is just so ingrained in us now that we're phones right here all the time, right? You always want to look at your phone and scroll, and you want to do whatever you got to do. Instead of if you take the phone down, right? That look, there's Ollie. I can have a conversation with you instead. Oh no, let's just do this. Keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling, and it's one of those things where people need to realize: put the fucking phone down and learn something from the person you're conversing with.
I think you're a smoker, so you might be biased or whatever, but I don't believe that there's such thing as an addiction. So when we say like drugs are addictive, smoking's addictive, alcohol's addictive, having a wank's addictive, porn's addictive, whatever, social media's addictive, that thing becomes the predominant pattern of the brain and gives a release of, I've had a fag, or I've had a wank, I feel great. If you are a strong-minded individual, like Tyson Fury, he can literally dig himself a grave and build himself up. Do you know who Tyson Fury is, yeah? The boxer.
Yeah, I had huge money on Tyson Fury this last weekend, man.
Right, so he dug himself a grave. He didn't want to live anymore. Nobody could tell him otherwise. His family, the point is that he knew that nothing else could really get him up to that level. He was in control of his death spiral. Mm-hmm. When he had a reason to change, he got back up. And he lost so much fucking weight and he became the champion of the world, right? But if you look at someone who's weak, they would probably not be able to get off drugs or smoking or alcohol, whatever, because they just can't. And you could say it's addictive, right? I don't believe anything is addictive. I believe that if you are a weak person, it's going to be harder to control those urges, those compulsions. And then through lack of knowledge, you don't have alternative mechanisms. You just fall back into that pattern through lack of knowledge. But if you're strong-minded, you already understand everything. Like I've seen patterns where strong-minded people have stopped smoking just like that. But what's interesting is they only started to smoke because it was just there. But you compare that to someone else who's always smoked because their friend gave them a fag, and they can't stop. But that's because they've not got any other feeling to counteract that feeling. They don't have a life. They go to work, they come home, all they've got is the damn TV, so they get a beer and they get a fag. Of course, if you've got nothing else to do, like going playing golf, going playing baseball, going on a walk, all your brain is going to do is think of that pattern which it hasn't yet had. So you're going to have that fag. If you change the pattern, then that time will fly past where you're like, holy shit, 3 hours of talking on the podcast, I haven't had a fag. If I was sat by myself playing Xbox, it'll be a fag every 10 minutes. So there's no such thing as an addiction, because an addiction is thought and taking action. And if you don't give your body if you don't give your body what it wants, it simply forgets about it. And then you realize, wow. So if that was me who normally takes that fag, but then it's also me who has the addiction, it's not me who has the addiction. There's no such thing as an addiction. Because if you put that person doing somewhere else that is really enjoying himself, a football match or whatever, you'll forget that you didn't have a fag for those 10 hours or drink. And it all comes down to strength of character. The more stronger you are, the more you can let go of things. Often the stronger you are, the more energy you have, the more things you can do, more friends, bigger lifestyle. People just go to work, come home and drink beer and smoke. That's all they do. And that pattern becomes the same of going on your phone, seeking this thing, having a wank, watching porn at 10, having a beer. It becomes a pattern. It's not an addiction. It's a pattern. What is a pattern? Just giving your brain that feeling of, I had a thought and I've achieved it. But if you can control the brain through knowledge, nothing is addictive. What do you reckon to that?
Yeah. So I don't know if you know much of my background and my history. I was a drug dealer and a drug user for 6 years of my life. We're talking $500 a day cocaine habit. I'm making $40,000 a week dealing, right? So I mean, I've seen both sides of it at the same time, and it's very strange when people say that addiction is a disease, because I know for a fact it's not a disease. It's simply in your mind. It's a choice. Now, there are going to be extenuating circumstances that don't allow you to make the proper choice. That would be chemicals firing in your brain. Understand that. Still not a disease. It's a choice. You can choose to, like I did, wake up in the morning and do a line of cocaine before getting out of bed. And then that's how I used to start my day, to waking up now at 5 a.m., taking my dog for a walk, and then coming home and doing this an hour and a half, almost 2 hour podcast with you, to taking control of every single step that I want to do, except for the cigarettes. Obviously, I smoke cigarettes now simply because it helps me to stay calm. And I know I can solve that. I have quit before. I actually just recently started smoking again, but addiction has to be a choice, because the very first thing that leads to it is your choice to do the drug, your choice to have the sex, your choice to whatever, watch the porn. It's your decision. And I think labeling it as disease takes the onus off the person, takes the responsibility off the person to say, oh, it's not my choice, it's not my fault. I can't do anything about it because it's not for me to decide. Whereas you and I have the exact same outlook, where it's like, yes, it is your fault, it's your pattern, you can change that, it is your life, you can do whatever you want with your life. And giving people the opportunity to have a cop out and saying it's not their fault, or saying that it's not their choice, is allowing people to be fucking idiots, I guess, for lack of a better term, right? It allows them to not have the responsibility. And you're like, why are you even here? What are you doing? Why would you even consider it not being your fault when you're the one that did it? Right? Everybody's just looking for the easy way out.
Yes. So obviously circumstances end up creating the choice. So if your father was a drug addict and that's all you see, that's in your brain, you're more likely to do it, right? So circumstances lead people to making choices. And if you're fortunate enough to have a perfect life, then you're less likely to do it, whatever. Like my mum used to always buy crisps. Every time I walked past the crisp drawer, I couldn't help but have a bag of crisps. And the more crisps I had, the more crisps I had. I used to have like 5 a day. My mum used to say I'm addicted. Maybe, because every time I'm thinking about crisps, I have to do it. I can't tell myself no. But the minute she stops buying crisps and it's not there, those thoughts don't exist. And I go for fucking months without crisps. So I'm not addicted. I'm just choosing to apply action to my thought. Now, if you've got a drug dealer who wakes up in a slum, who's got no life, no friends, no basketball match to go to, no chicken shop, no cinema, no dog to walk, his own thoughts are going to continuously play based on past patterns of what makes him feel good, which is going to be the line of coke in the morning, the cigarette, the crisps. If you have other stuff to do, take your son to baseball, take the dog for a walk, your brain doesn't have time to think about that. There's no such thing as time. It's just thought, action, how long it takes for that thought and action. 3 weeks for the brain to do something different, to learn that pattern. 3 weeks for the body to remove a feeling and a pattern. So give yourself enough time, your brain will simply just not think about crisps anymore. Like I don't. You won't be thinking about coke anymore because you just won't be thinking about it. You'll be playing basketball, playing baseball. You do a 2-hour podcast and you're like, fuck, I normally have a line of coke. I thought I was addicted. I've just done 5 hours doing baseball and podcasts. Right. I'm not addicted. So addiction is a choice.
Yeah, they say idle hands make for devil's worship, right? So, and you know, I don't believe in any kind of spiritual bullshit, anything like that, no religion, anything like that. But it's like when you have nothing to do, you think, what should I be doing? And then it affects you almost as a human. Like, I should be doing something, and you get all this anxiety. I should be doing something, and you got to learn to relax. You know?
Yeah, like people, like I lie down a lot. I never sit. I'm sitting like this because it's not. I can't fucking lie down doing a podcast. But I watch Netflix a lot, but I also go on lots of walks. I understand the importance of doing nothing and lying down. People will say you're so lazy. You all do is watch Netflix. All you do is they're always doing something. It's the gym, and then it's picking the kids up from school, and then it's doing that, and it's doing that. The human brain is actually designed to, like any animal, sleep, hunt for food. When it's got food, it sleeps and relaxes. Sleeping is the same as being in a meditative state. You're not designed to work for your boss and keep doing stuff all fucking day. Yeah. And then when you come home, you're on your phone, you're cooking, you're doing stuff. The brain has to do fuck all. So I'm lazy, laying in bed, relaxing, meditating, watching Netflix, whatever. It's important for the body and the brain to do nothing. It's not lazy. You just don't understand. It's so important to do nothing, like nil.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's days where I will literally lay on the couch, do nothing, right? Because you know how a life of an entrepreneur is. It's go 24 hours a day, and when you have that time to relax, I literally fucking break. Like I get on the couch and I'm not getting up. Like, I don't want to, or even not that I don't want to. Maybe I just can't. I'm like, I've been working 23 hours straight. I'm not fucking doing this anymore, right? So, I mean, it is what it is. Right.
I used to be when I was younger, I couldn't watch a film. I couldn't read a book. I've never read a book in my life. My attention span wouldn't finish the end of the sentence. I'd have an idea in my head, and then I'd try and go back to read that sentence, and another fucking idea would come. I didn't really watch films growing up. I used to be online all night, creating ideas, creating websites, app ideas, buying and selling shit. I used to be like, go to bed at 5 a.m, wake up at 12 after waking up fucking millions of times during the night because my brain was active. All day, buying and selling, all day, ideas, bloody blah, computer full of ideas. My brain never switched off, and I couldn't find the time to watch a damn film. So now people say you're so lazy. They didn't know what I was like before I had a breakdown and I became enlightened. I was non-stop. I could never sit down. I've never watched Friends, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. So yeah, I can happily watch 9 hours worth of Homeland series on Netflix, right? But what I was like, I couldn't do fucking 2 minutes. So now you understand, like, now you get, like, it's not lazy. It's fucking education. Like, I couldn't do anything for 1 minute. Now I can do 8 hours of series after Netflix. That's a big achievement.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a way to train your brain, right? So you can either be trained to work, and you also train yourself to take time for yourself, right? And there's different ways of thinking. That goes back again to the Bitcoin thing, right? How do we train our brains? This is how we've been trained to use this type of money. Let's retrain our brains to use this type of money, right? And that's kind of what you did with your brain, and how to relax, or how to do something that wasn't so anxiety filled that you had to switch within 2 minutes, right? That's one of the great things of life, is that we're able to overcome these what we think are disability or what we think are disparaging points that we have, and be like, okay, that wasn't working. Let's move on to the next one. And I think, like I said, back to the addiction thing, is that if you give people the opportunity to say, give them the opportunity to say, oh, this wasn't my choice, that eliminates all awareness and all ability to move forward on their own. Right now you're addicted to whatever the pills whatever pills they have that are going to get you off this other drug. So now you're addicted to this other drug, and now they're making money from you, right? And it all boils down to the same thing. But hey, listen, man, I do got to get out of here soon.
Do you want to quickly plug anything?
Yeah, hey, make sure and check out the Morning P podcast. Releases every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think that's it, man. That's it. Cool. That's all I need. Digital Diamond Network. Go to Facebook. Look up Digital Diamond Network. Look up the Morning P. Look up the Podcast-ish podcast. Look up I Want All the Smoke podcast. All these are under the Digital Diamond Network banner, the company that I am a founding partner of, and been doing it like this forever, man. Ollie talks, man. Ollie talks. Change the name. Change the damn name. Not Oliver Speaks With. It's Ollie Talks from now on. I don't even care. Every time I promote this show, I'm going to say, hey, go see Ollie Talks. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Who the fuck is that? I've Googled him. He doesn't come up.
You're going to have to change it eventually, man. I'm not sure.